Not really freedom, is it? You're not special. Work for it. Oh, he'd be up to some stuff. What would you even do? Hello Internet, it's I the Roshi and I'm back with another reaction. This time reacting to the long-awaited reaction of Genshin Impact's Teyvat chapter storyline preview Travail. Since I'll be playing the game soon, I figured that now is the best time to finally watch this. So, let's get into it.
We had no time to say goodbye, so let's not call it that.
The war has already begun. It is just a continuation of past battles. The gods goad us on with the promise of their 7 treasures, rewards for the worthy, the doorway to divinity. Yet buried in the depths of this world lies smoldering remains, a warning to those that dare trespass. That throne in the sky is not reserved for you. But mortal arrogation never stops. None will escape the flames. See for yourself. The dragon who defended Mondstadt for a millennium finally faces his perturbation. What does freedom really mean when demanded of you by a god? The god of contracts, senselessly slaughtered as his people watched on in horror. In the end, he will sign the contract to end all contracts. In the secluded land of the immortal Shogun, the Bakufu rules eternal. But what do mortals see of the eternity chased after by their god? The god of wisdom's enemy is wisdom itself, and the oasis of knowledge is a mirage in the desert of ignorance. In the city of scholars, there is a push for folly, yet the god of wisdom makes no argument against it. The god of justice lives for the spectacle of the courtroom, seeking to judge all other gods. But even she knows not to make an enemy of the divine. The rules of war are woven in the womb. The victors shall burn bright, while the losers must turn to ash. When the god of war shares this secret with the traveler, it is because she has her reasons. She is a god with no love left for her people, nor do they have any left for her. Her followers hope only to be on her side when the day of her rebellion against the divine comes at last. In the perpetual meantime of a sheltered eternity, most are content to live and not to dream. But in the hidden corners where the god's gaze does not fall, there are those who dream of dreaming. Some say a few are chosen and the rest are dregs. But I say we humans have our humanity. We will defy this world with a power from beyond. Now, you who has set foot in this world, your journey has reached its end, but one final doorway remains. Step forth if you have understood the meaning of your journey. Defeat me, command me to step aside. Show me that you are worthier than I to rescue her. Then, the threads of all fate will be yours to reweave. My memory has all but faded completely. But I will always remember how much she too loved these flowers.
I have chills from this. Wow. My brain is going a million miles an hour right now. So yeah, we're gonna have a second watch, an analytical watch. Let's dive into this.
We had no time to say goodbye, So let's not call it that.
I think that is Ether. This could be a quote, or at least the feeling of this could be applied maybe later on, depending on how this story of Genshin Impact actually wraps up. Yes, sure, there could be an overall happy ending, but there's a lot of hints and stuff through this that there is always fire, there is always going to be conflict, that not everything is how it seems. There's not really a lot of happy stuff happening. So of course, this is most likely a reference to how things begin, since we do tend to go in order throughout all this. However, it can also be foreshadowing of the very end. There have been several trailers and teasers where they talk about a cycle and things continuing. I think it could possibly be referencing that in a way where everything comes full circle. It starts one way and it unfortunately is going to end in a similar way.
The war has already begun. It is just a continuation of past battles. The gods goad us on with the promise of their 7 treasures, rewards for the worthy, the doorway to divinity.
So I believe this is just kind of giving us a setup how there has been war between the gods and demons and all that stuff way before the story of Genshin Impact starts. You know, there is a lot of lore, there's a lot of history and reasons for people's actions and where they are and why they do things. The Archons, all this stuff. This is just referencing that there was a bunch of commotion, there was a bunch of chaos before how the world turned out to be what it is today. And by world, I mean Teyvat, of course. You have these different regions. You have these 7 Archons. They grant these visions, these promises of power. Not just promises, but this actual power. And it's for some kind of purpose. Each Archon has a theme. And I guess usually you probably have similar values, if not the same kind of values, that Archon would also possess. They're picking and choosing who's worthy of carrying on their ideals.
Yet buried in the depths of this world lies smoldering remains, a warning to those that dare trespass. That throne in the sky is not reserved for you.
Okay, let me look at that again. By the way, the speaker right now, Daneleaf, whatever his name is, good old Dane, I believe is the person speaking right now. I recognize his voice from other things, and I remember in the comments people were pointing out, that's Dane! And there's even a shot of him later on in this, and I have an idea of what that's going to possibly lead to as well. Okay, yeah, buried in the depths of the world lie smoldering remains, a warning to those that dare trespass. All the time you find all sorts of lore and things, and the deeper you go, the more you figure out. They have that whole underground area, the Economia. They have like that abyss crater somewhere. They have an underwater city or something in Fontaine, right? You have like all the ruins from. There's just all these clues of what the world was before you entered, and by going in there, poking around, you're gonna find stuff out. You're gonna find out some secrets. And because all that stuff is technically no more, it's probably not the happiest of stories. But the events of before built the foundation for what the world is today.
Pass. That throne in the sky is not reserved for you.
Is it called Celestia? I don't know. But there's probably going to be some society or city or ruins in the sky that you're probably going to get to. After you get to all these other regions, you're going into the heavens. And I feel like that's where like the ultimate power of everything is, and it's like, you know, it's not reserved for you. You got to earn it. You got to make your way through all these other trials and be worthy of getting yourself there in the first place. Dane here is just telling you how it is, that you're not special. Work for it.
But mortal arrogation never stops. None will escape the flames. See for yourself.
Yeah. It's gonna be hard. He'll be
The
tough.
dragon who defended Mondstadt for a millennium finally faces his perturbation.
This is Venti, right? Wait. It's the dragon that Venti knows, that they refer to in Venti's teaser. But Venti is the Archon of Mondstadt. Well, maybe it'll actually just answer my question if I continue watching it.
What does freedom really mean when demanded of you by a god?
We got Dane asking the real questions here. Not really freedom, is it? Even here, it seems like there's a little bit of order. Because it's demanded of, right? And if it was true freedom, does true freedom just lead to chaos? These are the questions. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, would defying this god in some way, shape, or form still be considered freedom? Because it's your choice. And being an individual and having your choice is also a sense of freedom. I'm not going to say any of these gods are technically in the wrong or anything, but I do feel like there is, or there will be, some things that contradict what they want, what they say, what their ideals are. However, those things could also be intended because it's just the other side of the coin and it's a different perspective.
When demanded of you by a god. The god of contracts, senselessly slaughtered as his people watched on in horror. In the end, he will sign the contract to end all contracts.
Here I'm getting that they're either referring to the Archon before Zhongli, if there was one, or this is foreshadowing to something that does happen or will happen to Zhongli. They almost make it sound like this god exists, doesn't exist, comes back, because of how it's worded here. He will sign. Hasn't done it yet. He will sign. Of course, this is like the preview. This is the prelude to everything. So maybe it's something like that does actually happen. And once again, this is that other side of the coin here. Let's use the thing we're all about to end the thing that we're all about. But I like this so far. This is very interesting as far as what Dane is saying. And by the way, this is Dane talking, so it's also his perspective as well, you would think. And how much can we trust that?
He will sign the contract to end all contracts. In the secluded land of the immortal Shogun, the Bakufu rules eternal. But what do mortals see of the eternity chased after by their god?
There's eternity and then there's immortality. Eternity is with time. To me, it feels like to chase after eternity, you are in search of like a failsafe. It's like a weird concept of having a legacy. The part that I'm missing from this, though, is the why. Because to me, Raiden Shogun would already be eternal. So she is searching for another reason.
But what do mortals see of the eternity chased after by their god? The god of wisdom's enemy is wisdom itself, and the oasis of knowledge is a mirage in the desert of ignorance.
Okay. I love the wording here. It's very poetic. It fits well with like the theme of Sumeru. But we're talking about Nahida here. We're talking about the sages. I remember that they've talked about how Sumeru is essentially run by the sages, these scholars, right? And what's it called? It's like, is it actually referred to as like the university or something? The university or whatever they're calling it. It's a place to get knowledge. It's where everyone gets their knowledge from. It's where these people go to work, go to study, go to learn things. You know, it's a place for knowledge where it's shared, where it's gathered, all this stuff, but people are ignorant to how it's being controlled, how it's being obtained, used. And either everyone around them is ignorant to this, or even these scholars, these sages, whatever they're called, they're ignorant as well because they did something that's ultimately not great for money, power, greed, whatever their reasons are.
In the city of scholars, there is a push for folly, yet the god of wisdom makes no argument against it.
So yeah, it's just, this is, you know, things are sketch, and you would expect that the god of wisdom, you know, the Archon of this area, would step in and do something about it, would have something to say, but they make no argument against it, so people probably think that, oh, I guess it's fine, that they're not going to question anything, because although it's sketchy, the Archon would show up, right? The Archon would do something about it. So if they're not here, then it must be fine. And she is there, but they don't know.
The god of justice lives for the spectacle of the courtroom, seeking to judge all other gods. But even she knows not to make an enemy of the divine. The rules of war are woven.
Okay, hold on. We're going back to that Fontaine stuff. Fontaine, Masquerade of the Guilty. Alright, and we got to see Lenny and Lynette. The god of justice lives for the spectacle of the courtroom. We know that the courtroom, the justice system, is also used for entertainment within Fontaine. Seeking to judge all other gods. I'm sure the god of justice would have some opinions, some judgmental opinions of the others, or that they wouldn't necessarily agree with decisions that other gods have made, and being the god of justice, you would have the right to not just decide the fate and condemn everyone else around you, but the gods themselves. However, they're saying that they are not foolish to do this to the divine, which would be the one, I guess, technically in charge of all the gods, the celestial place, whatever that is. And that's interesting, because then we move on to Lenny and Lynette.
But even she knows not to make an enemy of the divine.
Once again, my head is spinning with 1,000 ideas. I see what you're doing. They're magicians. They'd be on stage. There's a spotlight on them. That's the freaking moon. I went there again. I went there with the crazy moon shit. It's, yep, Masquerade. It's like the masked dance, the masked party. You're hiding your true self while you go about and socialize with everyone else around you. We talk about not wanting to make enemies of the divine as these two pop up, who are magicians, deal with illusions, have the spotlight on them, also referring to the moon. More illusions, more lies, more trickery. I've said forever that these two in the Fontaine thing are setting up some kind of scheme that's going to kick things off and cause some trouble. Now they're saying Fossilor, or Farina, whatever her name is, maybe she does know something, but she's not going to intervene with them. Not this stuff. These are not normal people. I've heard, I even speculated early on with like the original Overture teaser that they might actually be one person, and I don't think that's the case anymore. But these two, I feel like, are either characters that have existed for a very long time and have just kind of been blending in with the world, or at least I assume they're kind of like reincarnated versions of some past version of themselves that have something to do with the lore, and that lore is freaking tied to the moon in some way. I know I'm editing this video, but I just sat here for like another 3 minutes just thinking, and I gotta move on. I'm so excited to play the game, because I'm telling you, the moment that I'm going to be discovering so much stuff, and I'm just going to go off, and y'all going to have to deal with it. It's not a threat, it's a promise. Hey there. I couldn't help but notice that you haven't subscribed yet. What's up with that? It's kinda embarrassing. Don't worry, it looks like this. I hope you can find it. Thanks. I appreciate it. Even the clock tick.
The rules of war are woven in the womb. The victors shall burn bright, while the losers must turn to ash. When the god of war shares this secret with the traveler, it is because she has her reasons.
I'm getting that feeling of like looping again. This is kind of like a weird natural selection, at least as far as the god goes, or how their rules work. It does say resurrection and not exactly reincarnation, so I don't know if it's a natural birth or if this is some kind of like a Norse thing where it's like warriors go to Valhalla sort of mindset. However, with just the music alone, there's a very like Latin vibe. You know, there's like this Hispanic kind of feel to it.
Victors shall burn bright, while the losers must turn to ash. When the god...
Yeah, you have like the castanets in the background. It's very nice. It's cool. And then the God of War shares this secret with the Traveler. It is because she has her reasons. Maybe there's a strong sense of trust. I mean, if you think about it, the Traveler had to go through all these other regions to eventually make their way to Natlin and meet this Archon. I'm sure stories of what the Traveler has accomplished throughout this time would reach the other regions. There's no way it wouldn't. So maybe if this Archon's like, hey, you've been fighting this long for something that you really want, I'm just gonna tell you my secret right off the bat. This is how it works here. I mean, yeah, this just seems like a very strong, like, powerful mindset of people are just born here knowing that they have to prove themselves to be the strongest that they can possibly be, because there's no time to be a loser. You don't get to continue if you're a loser. You get forgotten. But because we have resurrection here and we got womb and that this is a secret, I feel like there's something deeper about this.
She is a god with no love left for her people, nor do they have any left for her. Her followers hope only to be on her side when the day of her rebellion against the divine comes at last.
She is a god with no love left for her people, nor do they have any left for her. Yeah, that sounds pretty miserable. I think that's very self-explanatory. Her followers hope only to be on her side when the day of her rebellion against the divine comes at last. Snezhnaya is the place where the Fatui come from. I'm pretty sure that they work for her, or at least for her ideals, because they seem to be trying to combat the bigger picture of things. There's a lot of references to them, I think, wanting to defy the gods or the overall god or whatever that may be, to expose things for what they really are. Also, going back to Everwinter without mercy, not just in mythology but also just in reality as well. There were cataclysmic events, like, you know, we had the Ice Age. In a bunch of mythology, there have been ice ages or winters to symbolize possibly the end of the world, that things are coming to an end. Of course, this is further into the game. This is going to be a very intense portion. There is no mercy. This god has no love for their own people. And the people here do not give a fuck. We're going to be in for a rough time.
In the perpetual meantime of a sheltered eternity, most are content to live and not to dream. But in the hidden corners where the god's gaze does not fall, there are those who dream of dreaming. Some say a few are chosen and the rest are dregs. But I say we humans have our humanity.
Okay, we got good old Dane here. Actually, I don't know if he's very good, but he has his reasons, I'm sure. A sheltered eternity, forever existing through time, protected, happening simultaneously to everything else. I feel like this almost ties back to Inazuma with Raiden Shogun. Maybe it's just because they said eternity, but now I'm not sure if they're talking about literal dreaming. Actually, I mean, and then there's Sumero as well, because that has something to do with dreams. There's dreams involved. Yeah, I feel like whatever this is, it takes a little bit from each other place, and it's talking about people's wants and needs and what devotion that they have, and that there's some who do and some who are not caring, and then there's the concern of whether or not they are able to in the first place. And then we start talking about those who are chosen.
Have our humanity. We will defy this world with a power from beyond.
Oh, he be up to some stuff. What I'm understanding here is that the gods have chosen, and by chosen I mean like granted visions to people who they believe will fight for their ideals and purpose, like I've mentioned before many times. But then it brings up the question of, what about everyone else? Do the gods actually care about anyone else? Does whatever the ultimate plan have anything to do with the common people? I believe here that Dane wasn't specifically chosen by any god per se, and is more so representing humanity in itself and not power granted to him by gods. What he's got going on here in this arm, he seems to have found a different kind of power. And it's both dark and light colors. Dane might have found some way to harness like dark and light magic or something. Because I know we have all the other visions and their elements, but we haven't seen anything that's like really dark and light yet. Or I guess maybe we have with like the Abyss. Is that what Dane's about? Is he connected to the Abyss? That might make sense based on other things I've seen. Okay. I don't know much about this guy other than that he looks really cool. And I think he had something to do with the Hilitrol curse from the version trailer. He was like seen within those segments. And I think that was Abyss related. So if not light magic, at the very least dark magic stuff. But it seems like we have all these gods, these archons within their regions with their problems, which leads to this ice queen of sorts in Snezhnaya, who is trying to thwart the Celestials. But you also have Dane kind of working in the shadows, doing his own thing for the sake of humanity itself, for the people that he fears will be forgotten when all of this stuff is over. So if he hasn't already in the game, maybe he's kind of working along the side and showing up every once in a while, trying to share knowledge and convince you about thinking his way of doing things. And it's that moral gray area, because I'm sure it'll come at some kind of cost, right? Everything does.
You who has set foot in this world. Your journey has reached its end, but one final doorway remains.
Is the final door that remains the one that they show on like the loading screen when you start up the game? Is that the final door? Is that the doorway? I've seen that screen before. It's like the path that's materializing and the freaking door is there. I've seen that. Is that the doorway?
Who has set foot in this world. Your journey has reached its end, but one final doorway remains. Step forth if you have understood the meaning of your journey. Defeat me, command me to step aside. Show me that you are worthier than I to rescue her. Then, the threads of all fate will be yours to reweave.
So what Dane is essentially telling me here at the end is that he is the red in Pokemon Gold and Silver. All this other shit's just the gyms and the Elite Four, man. But what happens after the Elite Four when you want to be like the Pokemon champion? You fight the champion that came before you, treating it like a competition. And then they keep talking about like to see her, to rescue her. With these animations and version trailers and all that stuff, they really push for Ether to be the sibling that you're playing as, when I know you can pick Lumen in the beginning. So they could just be saying her and referring to the sister because canonically it's supposed to be Ether that you're playing as throughout all of this. However, that still feels a little weird to me that they make all these trailers like that and not just kind of be more ambiguous. So it's either her as in the sister or her as in someone else, another character that we have yet to meet. Now that we went through all that, I just want to give some quick impressions, some opinions of some of the imagery that we've seen going through this. This makes me think of Ether and Lumen are travelers, or maybe it's a reference to the whole Linny and Lynette thing again. I don't know why they would do that this early in the trailer, but I don't know. Maybe. Flowers, very nice picture. The picture is different at the end where we're having more warmer colors. So maybe we have like, this is a sunrise, and then we have the sunset, which makes sense, the beginning and ending of this trailer and the adventure. And then they start showcasing some of these characters here. We have D-Luke. D-Luke hasn't really appeared in a lot, but it's cool that he's here. Okay, and then, man, I can never remember or say her name. But she's like super rich lady that has like the very cool team of what, Yelan, Ganyu, Beidou, I think. I think they're all kind of like grouped together, working, doing their thing in Liyue. We have Ayaka here, which makes sense for Inazuma. She is a very important figure. Cool that she is there as well. Okay, and then we have Sino. We have Linny and Lynette here. I already talked about their imagery. It's freaking insane, and I'm gonna move on real quick before I spend another half an hour talking about them. This character, no idea. Only thing I'll say is that we know that this and the characters after this point that we see are not Archons, because they haven't been for any of the previous images shown here. So why would they start showing them now? So this is just going to be another character that we meet that might be fairly important. It's pretty cool, very intimidating, but I love the combo of like the robes with like the metal like gauntlets and or bracers rather with the fur. Just by looking at this image, I get the feeling of like a very strict way of life, this regime of sorts. You have these characters in very powerful stances, even the sitting position with like the finger touch here, making a fist, arms extended, like all of these are different power poses. And they have like this crusader like look, but also a somewhat militaristic or even like a gentlemanly vibe going on. Very interesting. There's a lot of, I know a lot of these regions have very mixed cultures and backgrounds from real life in order to form their region, but you can really see here that there's all sorts of things going on, and I'm here for it. It's pretty cool. We're having a star. I'm thinking like Northern Star or like, Wish Upon a Star, things like that. It's talking about dreams, dreaming. So like wanting something, wishing for something. Good old Dane, looking pretty badass with his mysterious, dark, corrupted arm of sorts. And then yeah, we go across the field of flowers and we end on this image, which is probably the sunset. Started the journey with your sibling and you're ending it and she is not here. Ooh, I don't know. But then if you succeed, then the thread of all fate will be yours to reweave. What would you even do? Whatever comes from the end of this game, it's going to be mind-blowing. I'm just wondering if they're going to actually give you a choice at the end. But that'd be wild to play through this game for so long and to choose an ending, and not everyone would have the same ending if it actually is that varied. I wonder if they do that. Do you think they do that? Let me know in the comments below if you think that they would actually allow multiple endings depending on your choices at the end of the game. That video was absolutely incredible. I am even more excited now to be jumping into this game. I feel like this is a video that people return to a lot. I can imagine that once a region comes out that people might jump back to this to actually see and make these references or even speculate. And I might be doing the same in the future when the next region comes out. I might return to this and just start trying to piece things together a little more. Dainsleif is a mysterious fellow and he's speaking some stuff, and it's definitely making my gears turn. Absolutely wild. I can see myself making references to this video in the future for a lot of my theories, and just so it's so interesting. There's so much that has been planned, and it's really cool to be discovering how it all unfolds. Well, that's it for me, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then please consider subscribing to the channel. It really means a lot. I'm currently trying to reach 5,000 subscribers, so if you want to help me out, that would be very much appreciated. And if you made it to the end of the video, then let me know by going into the comment section down below, and within your message, leave the word shadow. And that way, I will know that you are indeed a real one. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, shine on, you crazy diamonds. Later.